Yeah. Decibels, I changed setting, I mean, you know, I was changing settings, both here and on my computer.
Call the meeting to order. Vacation.
Father, we love you and thank you for such a beautiful day. Thank you, Lord, that you promised rain, and so we're expecting rain, Lord, to come and water the earth. Thank you for protecting us and giving us everything we need today. Bless this meeting, be Lord of all we do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda?
We did add an executive session for attorney-client privilege. I don't know if that was before or after it was initially published, so.
I'd move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Lambert, a second by Commissioner Wentz to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Public comments. This is the time where citizens are encouraged to speak publicly. We request that you state your name and address, speak respectfully, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Any public comments? Yeah, go ahead.
My name's Everett Mendenhall. I live in Concordia, Kansas. And I just want to touch bases on the four-wheeler thing. I know a lot of older people that can't shovel snow and stuff, they can't afford it. And if they did, they probably shovel snow, they might have a heart attack, whatever. But I personally push snow for some elderly people with my four-wheeler. So, and I know a few other people, I even know one guy that rides his from his house out of town and pushes some snow also. But I thought it'd be a, one more safety factor that it could be, for the elderly and stuff to help them out. Because a lot of them can't afford it. It's pretty expensive to get snow. So
Okay,
that's all I thought.
all right. Thank you for bringing that point up too. Public comments? Okay, moving on to our minutes of our September 21st, 2022 meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of the September 21st, 2022 meeting. Second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Wentz, a second by Commissioner Hash to approve the minutes of September 21st, 2022 meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Appropriation ordinance number 18.
I had a question, a couple of questions. What do we use a trail camera for?
That was for security on the airport campground. There have been some break-ins or attempted break-ins to that box. So quick security camera before we could figure out more of a wireless video camera. That was a quick, but that's it.
I thought maybe it was for my backyard. It's full of deer in the middle of town.
No, it's just for security.
I wouldn't say that too loud, Marcy. You may have
Yeah, somebody.
deer stands put up in the back.
Yeah, well, they could. I noticed there was about 12 drug screens. Do we pay for those? I mean, you do that many a month or?
This was unusually high, but we're with UCI testing out of Wichita, and they send us a random list every quarter.
Oh,
And for some reason, this one had, I want to say 6 people instead of 2 or 3. And then we have to do it for new hires if they are going to be CDL licensed at some point. And there was one we had to catch up on. So that's why there were so many. It was kind of an expensive month.
I was hoping they were all new hires.
No such luck.
I move to approve appropriation ordinance number 18.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Wentz, a second by Commissioner Belden to approve appropriation ordinance number 18. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Purchasing policy. Sorry, resolution 2022-2142, purchasing policy.
Linda Hunsicker from Department of Commerce suggested the changes when they were here last week. And I probably should have included what it had, but section 7 completely came out. And that was 2 full pages of the procurement policy for specifically for CDBG projects. And she said there's no reason to have that because whenever we get a project, they will have their own updated and we'll use it or implement it or whatever. And then, so, but a small portion of it in there was the non-competitive negotiations. And that would be if we needed something that only one manufacturer made or whatever, and there would be no reason to go out for bids because we know we would just get the one. And she said that we should put that up in section 5, so that's what I added there.
So no concerns with that. I mean, that seems like it would make sense that they're gonna tell us the guidelines for which we can go about using their money. Our money that they're letting us use.
I don't know if that means that each project is gonna have its own. I wasn't real clear about that, but anyway, they will bring their own whenever we do have projects.
Well, there's really not a way for us to challenge theirs other than to decline the opportunity to get the grant, right?
Move to approve resolution 2022-2142.
Second,
Motion by Commissioner Belden, a second by Commissioner Lambert to approve resolution 2022-2142. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Managers report.
Mayor and Commissioners, I think I forwarded you an invitation to the Clyde County Community College President's Soiree for tomorrow night, or Friday night, I'm sorry, not tomorrow night, Friday night. Do you know if any of you plan to attend? Okay, all right, so Stacey, I don't know if we need to do a notice. I can get you the details on all of that, so thank you for attending and supporting the college. I think that's a really good thing. We're also stopped on the Kansas Air Tour that's partly put on by KDOT again this year, and our stop is on Saturday morning from 9:30 to noon. So if you have a chance or want to take your kids out there, you're more than welcome to. They'll be there at 9:30 in the morning, and then they'll be departing by noon. In the meantime, Steve Richard and Susie Haver work really closely together to get some activities planned for them. So they're going to shuttle the participants down to the National Orphan Train or the POW Camp Museum and give them an energy-filled tour, like only Susie and Barb Henry can do. And they're also going to be serving coffee and donuts to the pilots and participants, the pilots that are stopping in there as well. So it'd be a good time to stop and see what's going on in Concordia, and anybody that's interested in aviation to stop out by the airport between 9:30 and noon and check out the airplanes and visit with the pilots too. We did submit the MIH grant application to the Housing Resources Commission before the September 30th deadline. So I'm pleased to report we got it in on time. They did confirm receipt. There was a couple of other components that we had to do right before that, and that was ensure that we got our request to establish the RHID to Department of Commerce, and we did successfully do that with confirmed receipt. And we also had to apply for rezoning of the property. We received permission from the hospital to do so and went ahead and turned in that application, and that is in process right now as well. So all those 3 things running simultaneously. We're now playing the waiting game. We'll have to wait for the timeline for rezoning, which the public hearing is scheduled for October 25th to rezone that hospital, the property that the hospital is sitting on, from C2 to R1 for single family residential. We need to wait to hear back from Department of Commerce. It should take a couple of weeks to find out if they agree with our findings for the RHID, and then we can proceed with the redevelopment plan and the feasibility study. And then we'll find out in November if we were awarded funding for this first round of MIH funding. That's kind of the timeline there. Chief Boss is at here. They were called out right before the meeting started. Nope, there he is. So I'll let him give you an update on the grant when it comes to staff reports. That's all that I have. Do you have any questions?
Now staff reports.
Say, now you guys walking in a circle.
We'll do staff reports.
You know.
There we go. Several months back, the DOJ had said we'd be awarded that grant for communication. We finished it out and finally found out Friday what we proposed for the handheld radios for the county, some mobile radios, the generators for all the towers here, dispatch, and remodeling some of dispatch was approved for the full 310,000. So what I'd like to do is we'll start the bidding process out for the city policies and start that process, because radios are 9 to 10 months out if we order them today. So it's going to be a little while before we get everything, but we want to get it going quick.
Chief, does this complete that project?
It does.
Thank you so much, because that was, I mean, it's a huge partnership, so I appreciate it.
Completes that, and the generators give some backups and some stuff that kind of forgotten about when it was started. So
Awesome.
should round it out good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's
That's fantastic.
Any other staff reports?
Give you a little update on the Norman Field project. They're originally slated to start on the 15th, but the project manager called Monday, I believe it was, and they actually started delivering machinery today, this afternoon. We'll start tomorrow or Friday at the latest. So it's moving earlier than expected. So,
And what's the finish date estimated?
I mean, they're so dependent on weather.
Mhm.
Because any moisture really slows them down or stops them. He said mid-January shouldn't be a problem. But if the weather holds out, it should be well for that. So the biggest thing will be waiting on the turf, but we ordered it early enough to where they still said shouldn't be any problem getting that in. But they're just starting on the dirt work earlier than expected.
That's exciting.
Brian Peterson out at the wastewater treatment plant has been the acting plant manager. He has now passed his test, so he is the man now.
That's awesome.
You're back in compliance with
Yes,
everything that we need.
Solid.
thank you.
And thank him.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, we're decided to go out for bids for an admin vehicle. This one's 7 years old. And the plan would be if we get something, hopefully give it to the building and zoning department, whose vehicle is over 10 years old. So if we get any bids, we'll bring that back the second meeting of November. I'm not holding my breath, but if we do, we'll bring them. Fingers crossed.
And this is the admin vehicle that we used to take for out of town travel. So if we're traveling to Topeka or Kansas City or Wichita for conferences or wherever else we go, that's the shared one among. some
Yeah, and
departments
other departments use it for sure.
For out of town travel.
A lot of, all the other departments use it.
Any other staff comments? Okay, would entertain a motion for executive session.
Move that the city commission recess into executive session for consultation with an attorney for information deemed privilege in the attorney-client relationship exception, KSA 754319B2, with Amy Lang and Justin Farrell in attendance and a reconvene in the city commission chamber at 6:10, probably.
Second.
And there's a motion by Commissioner Lambert, second by Commissioner Wentz to go into executive session until 6:10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Okay, no action was taken. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
You never asked for permission.
Oh, my gosh, I'm sorry. Let's go into commissioner comments.
The one night.
That you have taken. Let's start with Commissioner Wentz. So sorry.
I wondered if there was any way we could put locks on the public bathroom doors that can be opened with your phone. So you could put a phone number on the door, like at the plaza, because, you know, we're having to keep them locked, or the park, the city park. So everybody carries a phone, the kids all carry a phone. So they could just phone that number, not the number to open the door, but the number of whoever's phone it's on.
Like an on-call person?
No, like a digital key.
Yeah.
So
like it-
then, I think.
So then that person would,
So we know who has been in that bathroom.
well, and then that person could open the door and then have it automatically shut when they leave.
Do we have Wi-Fi access at all of our public parks and spaces?
But I kind of like that idea.
I mean, it'd be a pain for the person, but,
Yeah,
you know,
and
the
then we have
plaza
visitors.
person could have that number, and that could be a different number at the city park or wherever.
Are
I'm
there
sure they
ID?
make them somewhere.
Or sure there, or I don't, when you go to a bar, you know, there are some places where you swipe your ID. Like, are there those types of things too?
I don't
mean, I
know.
know it wouldn't work for kids, but
Yeah,
at
I
least
need
you'd
that
have
in my bar game.
a driver's license.
You know,
If you have to go back.
I've been in hotels that had, you know, those little safes, and you can use your credit card to, you don't pay, it doesn't, but it identifies you, and then you can put in your code, your personal code to get in, and then to lock it again, but use the same credit card. That's not the way most of them work, but it is a way that they can.
You know, I think like the reality is we're gonna spend a lot more on a system like that and still have the same vandalism issues that we do. And then we've got a list of 20 numbers that were there from 7:05 to 10:05, and now we're gonna go through and call all of them and ask them. I wonder if just locks that are on a time basis would reduce the likelihood of vandalism to where instead of going around and locking them and unlocking them, they could be unlocked during daylight hours, locked during close time. That might
Well,
be more
and
accessible.
I know at the plaza that we've had problems with people using the outside instead of the inside of the bathroom.
But like, so even in that, then a key or a phone's not gonna, they're not gonna, I would doubt that would stop that from taking place either. I like the idea. I just think realistically speaking, somebody who's gonna do that kind of thing isn't gonna take the time to.
Do we have cameras in any, or outside of any of them?
At the plaza.
I'm sorry, at the plaza?
At the plaza, but there's certain areas they can't see.
Yeah,
Are they working right now, the cameras at the plaza?
yeah.
They are.
There's a camera at City Park bathroom too, but it's an old camera. It's not real clear, but it is recording.
I mean, to me, that seems like more trail cams would be better to, I mean, you could have one facing out the door that's at least gonna show me going up and taking it off. I would think a camera pointing towards the bathrooms and then one pointing out of from the front of the door, right? Not inside the restroom, but that would see people going in would be probably our best bet to have an idea of who's going in and out.
Anything reachable has to be in probably a plexiglass box, or they're gonna break it down. They have before.
Do we have footage of them breaking it down?
I don't know. When I was talking to Aaron about those cameras and anything reachable, it's pretty.
Like the one you had out at the airport, it's high enough, they're not.
Yeah, that's why I put a actual trail cam
Yeah,
Because anything, even in that little kiosk building, reachable is cover your face and spray paint it, or take a broom and knock it down. I mean,
I know they make cameras that get their own like cellular signal or whatever and are solar powered. I don't know if that would be something, but you would have to pay for the signal, and then I think you would have to pay for like a cloud storage or something like that.
we just ask people really nicely not to break our stuff.
Well, it's just a thought that
No, I
there's
think
gotta
it's
be something
something we
we
can
can do for those.
And that's a good question for the league conference this weekend, when we have conversations,
Yeah.
is how are you keeping people, how are you keeping your public bathrooms nice?
Yeah.
And when the downtown flooded, or when the main flooded, you know, the basements on the south side of Sixth Street there. A couple of the owners said they had a lot of sand and now the sidewalks are sinking. Is there any way?
What was this at?
Well, like in front of Essentials and Brits along there where we had a water leak.
It's also over by that trading post. I noticed that just this last weekend. The sidewalk actually is slanted toward the building.
I wonder if, like, I mean, they have those foundation repairs where you can put the,
Foam it up.
You're gonna drill a hole and raise everything out there.
We did that at Cloud Village. It doesn't work for very long.
Well, and
I know
those,
all the fill and when they, every time we've ever dug with those old mains, all the underneath, all the sidewalks was nothing but sand. It was fill sand.
yeah,
And yeah, I can imagine over the years that it did get washed out. It got washed out and probably into some of the buildings when we had main breaks. But other than ripping that concrete out and pouring new sidewalks, then it have to be the way. they have to be
well,
remedied.
and aren't there at one time was a walkway under that sidewalk,
What?
under those sidewalks.
Some of them, yeah, a lot of them
Yeah.
had
For
loading
cold.
areas and elevators that came up through the sidewalk and stuff. There are still scenarios with voids under the sidewalk that you can go right from the building to underneath the sidewalk.
The
We still
church.
have a few of those.
The church down there, that was a whole room underneath the sidewalk.
Well, I know under the, what I call the Harris Building, that, of course, those are slate sidewalks, they are concrete, but yeah, those are old coal bins, but, and I think that was on Sixth Street, but they wondered if there was anything that could be done to keep the sidewalks from sinking.
We'll have to look into that and see.
And then Bruno. Is anything being done for the Sherwin-Williams building on the side that all the concrete or all the bricks, the mortars out and?
No, in fact, that was discussed a while back with the plan of attack on that because it changed ownerships here recently. Yeah, I know me and Amy talked about that a little bit. We know they fall through the same thing.
We sent them some kind of a letter, I
Some
think.
letters,
Did we get a letter off them?
because they lived far, whoever,
It's like in New Jersey or something.
yeah, New Jersey, New
Oh.
York. Yeah, they were far away.
Cause that a whole wall looks like it's gonna fall off. The back of it, I drove down that alley the other
Fire
day.
escape and,
Yeah.
should be a little bit.
Well,
Get you to the ground quick.
you're right. If you stepped on it, it'd go.
Yeah,
really
that was
skip back.
last year during the alley
Yeah.
project that we
Yeah.
did that. We'll have
But
to see what else we can do.
it's getting worse, and then in the front where there's a tree between, right behind the fence,
The
that's probably not
property
helping.
owner.
That's all.
Nice list, Marcia.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring up the West Seventh Street thing issue again. If we need to do something about changing our regulations, it needs to be done, in my opinion. Also, and Marcia brought this up several months ago, there's a place on not Republican, it's Cedar Street, not too far from the Wesleyan Church, where they have started a project and it has never been completed, and it looks to me like there has been absolutely no progress for months, and it's unsightly. So those are two things that, in my opinion, contribute to the attractiveness of the community. And I know that the neighbors up there on 7th Street are not happy.
No.
And if there's a business being run out of that home, is it zoned for that? That would be my question. So,
Yeah, we've been doing what we can with that one.
okay, so what do we need to do?
Well. Go ahead. Should put in my mouth, I guess. It's not as easy as you gotta clean this up. We're not exactly sure where the owner is at this point in time. I have an idea.
You mean they're gone?
Not gone, not present. I'm not gonna disclose that in an open meeting, so, but what happened is that Ross and I talked at length a couple Thursdays ago on this, because a lot of that stuff over there is not stuff that, I don't know if he's running a business out of that house, but there is construction equipment over there, and it's not anything we can just take. And I also, I mean, I'll take the hit on this one. I was involved years ago in a lawsuit where we did do something like that. We did go ahead and take that equipment and different things like that because we thought it was unsightly. And then what we didn't do was record everything. So I told everybody, we're taking pictures, we're doing all of this. Because then they came back and said, we took all of this stuff and 3/4 of it was missing. And how do we prove that we didn't just steal it? So what the problem is here is though, is that at that point in time, I think there was a bucket of tender wood or something like that. And other than that, that other stuff wasn't really anything we could take.
Maybe a swing set and a
Yeah.
couple of small, 2 or 3 things is all.
So we've had a lot of conversations about the best way to deal with it. Have you been in contact with the owner? Okay. I'll talk to you about it.
And when Fuller and Chris was gonna go clean it up, and I stopped it because I had been involved in a lawsuit in Fairbury, the same thing, and I said, wait a minute. From my experience, that's when we called Justin, and, you know, with experience in the past, we wanted to make sure the city wasn't held liable for some issues.
So the next steps to explore are gonna be any zoning violations, and then just see if there's any other regulations or policies we could put in place that would help that situation. Put some pressure on that situation.
I would appreciate that if we could do something. I just talked to somebody today that's so fed up and is saying, you know, I pay a lot of taxes. So,
And then you said there was another one on Cedar Street near the Wesleyan Church too. That
yes, it would be
appears to be a similar.
north. Well, I wouldn't say it's similar. It's
Looks like they're
construction,
doing the wall.
Oh,
That retaining wall has been in
Yeah.
construction for 3 years.
which I think is a good idea, but
I think the rock's out there too.
yeah, they need to move forward on it.
I think about that the other day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're trying to do, it just, we gotta do it the right way.
Okay, thank you.
So how long is a permit good?
6 months.
So,
You have to start within 6 months of the permit being issued. You can't abandon the project for more than 6 months. I can address
Right.
this one, though. I'll get with them tomorrow.
Devil's advocate, how do you define abandoning a project? No, I'm still moving forward on it. I moved 1 block yesterday and I plan on moving 1 block next week. Well, so it's still in progress.
Yeah, that can be a difficult thing, but what I tell people is if it's a project that requires inspections, then you need to have me on site at least once every 6 months if you want that permit to stay good. Otherwise it becomes abandoned and, and we've had people get themselves in trouble for doing that.
So that's some of the language we can include, is that this is what constitutes an ongoing project.
Yeah.
Other than the construction stuff in the yard, the property looks a lot better than it used to.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've looked at that in some contracts lately with them is kind of defining what abandoning it is or significant work or whatever it may be. Not just you reading it as that general term, so that's something we can certainly look into as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
I guess following this theme, I wonder, I would like to see what we can do as a city in partnership with the school, I guess law enforcement's with the city. It seems like in the last couple of years, maybe, there's, I don't know, there's a lot of folks that I think, and really the majority of folks take a decent amount of pride in themselves, in their properties, in their businesses, in the way that they conduct business in Concordia. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of the progress and the growth that we're seeing in our community. But there's also, I think, a decent amount where that's not present, where that's something that we struggle with. People maintaining their properties, not taking care of things the way that they should. Not from a judgmental standpoint, like that I mow my yard better than you do, but I wonder how we could work towards improving the overall spirit of our community, working with the school for children who struggle, who are maybe living in those homes, where, well, DCF can't do this because law enforcement can't do that, law enforcement can't do this because the court system won't do that. And I know that there's only so much of that we can do. What can we do in terms of zoning? What can we do to keep people from parking 14 cars in their driveway? What can we do from keeping the front yard to be a storage lot? There are certain nuisances that we can follow, but is there more that we can do as a city? Is there more we can work with our law enforcement, with our courts, with our schools to come up with ways to keep Concordia clean? That's kind of catchy. But I always grew up with my grandfather. He would say that soap is cheap. And what he meant by that is you don't have to be wealthy or be affluent to take care of yourself. And if there are things that we can do, ways that we can help the school work with programs on self-care, what that looks like, how that works. I don't want to overly socially engineer people. I know that people's choice is their choice. But I feel like there are things that we can do that would foster a spirit of kind of helping encourage these sorts of things to take on. I know that we just have an abundance of staff as it is, and so they're always looking for more things to do. So I do appreciate this, and so it's really just, I guess, just try to start. If there are ways that we could start building this conversation and figuring out how we could work better together to make sure that our people are taken care of, that our kids are taken care of, that our community is taken care of. That an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I'd like to see what we can do, be willing to help out in whatever way I can to be a part of that. So.
I just can't apparently keep my mouth shut. But actually, there was a meeting not too long ago. I see you nodding, Marcia. She's like, cool, yeah, we know. To speak to that though, and it would have been myself, Rob, Walsh, some of the administrators at the school, some DCF folks, social workers. We had a wraparound meeting. Now it was directed more towards some issues with kind of law enforcement and dealing with some things in the schools. But we also had discussed how can we help some of these kids that maybe they have an issue in the school, but we need to take a peek in what's at home and stuff like that. So that may be something that can grow from there. We talked about having, I think we've got another one this month, maybe trying to do a monthly kind of meeting. Maybe worthwhile to talk about bringing like someone from your profession in or something like that. That could can say, okay, well, here's my ideas, because there are a lot of kids that unfortunately fall through the cracks. Where they may have some issues with behavior, but not enough that law enforcement's getting involved. Maybe it's bad at home, but we don't know. So that is something that it's just starting. We had one meeting, so might be worth trying to grow from that as well.
I think so. There used to be an MDT, multidisciplinary team meeting that involved CASA, BCF, law enforcement.
Yep.
I think that with some of the turnover in all those different agencies, it's really hard to maintain that consistency, but I think that something along those lines that had some teeth and what we can do with zoning, or what we can do with our regulations, our ordinances to help supplement that, to where I think that if we're all rowing in the same direction, it's going to be a lot easier to make these adjustments and to structure things in a way to where it really is from a support base. We're not here to like punish people, but there is ways to help guide the movement of our community, and I think it'd be good for us to be involved in those conversations.
Because I think sometimes you can find, I know I've questioned sometimes some of the work that some of these agencies have done, and they are consistently having their policies and procedures changed by people perhaps in Topeka or even higher up. They're kind of removed from those situations, so then they're frustrated by it. So then what they used to maybe be able to do, they can't do now. More of a hands-off approach is really being taken, which is frustrating everybody. So maybe there's a place we can assist in filling in those gaps. I think it's going to be very important going forward, because we don't have a lot of workers either for a lot of these positions. So it's very difficult to keep eyes on everybody who probably needs to have eyes on them.
Maybe this would be a good conversation to kind of have towards the beginning of a new year too. I mean, I'm struck thinking about we're the orphan train town, and this is the place where, I mean, it's in our heritage that a place where kids would come and to pursue a better life. So maybe this is like that next step in like our history is, do we make this is the place where kids can be safe? And is that our proclamation? And is that what we get everybody on board, all the governing entities, that we're gonna all have this as a focus? So everything we do ties back to that. Are we creating a good environment to raise kids? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not to get too
Well, so I mean,
cheesy.
well, but if that's what gets everybody on board,
Yeah.
so be it. Right? But if this becomes a safer place, a healthier place for us to raise our families, then that drives economic development. It drives all of the markers and the indicators that we're doing. So I mean, it's not, there's a lot of other intrinsic values associated with this. First and foremost is the safety and well-being of our kids. But the healthier they are, the more they're taken care of, then the more everything else fosters. The less vandalism we have, the less. So we don't have to have conversations about how to come up with a new, more creative look for our bathrooms. We can come up with ways that we're achieving these outcomes.
And make it clear that if you're gonna pursue those types of activities, that this is not the town for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be great. That's what.
So keep Concordia.
My only comments are I'm really appreciative of the turf project and also the radio project. I think it's just more getting our groups to work together. Just kind of a continuation of that, I think is nice. So thank you for doing that. And that's all I have. So now we can move to adjourn.
I think I would remove to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion.
Hey, Justin.